Hello, my name is Patrick Moore,
I'm Marlisa McLaughlin.
and welcome to Health Buzz.
Perspectives on natural healing.
Marlisa, we have a very unusual show this evening, and the title of the show is called the Microbiome. It's a fancy word, it's a little bit complicated, the microbiome, but and the subset of that is, can the microbiome affect our lifespan? And this show is dedicated, we're going to be talking about our inner ecology, probiotics, this type of bacteria that resides inside of us, and what it can do in terms of, and what implication it has in terms of our health and our lifespan. And in doing this show, we're going to be dedicating it to Elie Menshikov. So if we can have that slide on Elie Menshikov and talk a little bit about him. Elie Menshikov was a Russian zoologist and biologist, and he won the Nobel Prize in 1908. He's known as the father of immunology for discovering a component of the immune system called phagocytosis. But what Menshikov was fascinated about was beneficial bacteria. He looked next door, he was Russian, and he looked at the Bulgarians and he said, my goodness, these people have amazing lifespans. They're out there working in their fields, sowing their crops into their 80s. What is it that's unique about them? What's different? And his analysis and empirical observations was they're eating fermented foods.
And interestingly enough, thinking about working in the fields, which we don't do quite so much anymore unless we have a small one in the backyard, 2,500 years before that, we had Hippocrates. And one of the most common things I'm seeing is the phrase by Hippocrates, what? All disease begins in the gut.
Exactly.
We're so excited
all
about
disease belong, that was Hippocrates 2,500 years ago. Menshikov observed it and made the same comments, and in 1908, he won the Nobel Prize in 1908, but in 1907, he spent, the last 20 years of his life researching beneficial bacteria and how it can affect your health. So Menshikov wrote this book called The Prolongation of Life. Can these beneficial bacteria actually be the key component that extends our lifespan? So in the year, if you go back to the year 2008, the National Institute of Health, through the Human Genome Project, which was examining how many genes we have and mapping the genetic structure of the human being, it extended it to what's called the Human Microbiome Project. And the biome is a community of cultures, inner cultures that live in a larger body like us, our host. And the micro being microscopic. And over the last 8 years, what Menshikov was saying, what Hippocrates is saying, is stunning scientists around the world, in that these beneficial bacteria may have some of the most potent abilities to enhance our health and our lifespan. And so that's what our show is going to be about, and we're going to show you what they can do for your health, and in addition to that, how you can implement them into your life itself through fermented foods, probiotics, yogurts, and things of that nature.
So is it safe to say that we're mostly made of microbiomes?
Well, the microbiome, these gut bacteria, we've thought that the human being has about how many cells? 1 trillion cells approximately?
1 trillion cells.
1 trillion cells.
That's a lot.
But the microbiome, they estimate, has up to 100 trillion cells.
That's a lot more.
And if we compare it to, the Human Genome Project was looking at, we have 23,000 genes in our body, that with all these different microbes, we may have up to 8 million genes, DNA strands, that these microbes are responsible for. So, it's really quite stunning in that respect.
So where do you find these microbes, all these bacterial cells in our body?
Anywhere.
They're not just in the gut, are they?
Nasal, in the mouth. We can get cavities and dental decay, things like that. Our ears, the genitalia, and so down in our throat and lungs. So although they're mostly in our gut, the small intestine, large intestine, they can be all over our body and play such a key role.
And so for health applications, how can we apply this knowledge to help us if we're thinking about this as it's really like a sub-colony within our own human colony? It's kind of a weird, freaky thing to think about when you look at it like that.
Because, we have all these discoveries going on in outer space, and you think the next discovery is going to be, deep in the ocean or some remote part of the Amazon jungles. But the discovery scientists are making is we have this inner ecology that may control the way we think, our moods, our digestion, our lifespan, how do we get cancer, do we not get cancer? I mean, these discoveries are just stunning, scientists across the world who have been involved in the Microbiome project. So let's take the first application, digestion. Now, you're the one who said
all disease begins in the gut. I didn't say to quote it Hippocrates, but it's really true, isn't it? I mean, that's where those colonies are festering.
Well, they're in there, they're these 100 trillion, if we can believe it. It probably, some people, scientists want to make it an organ, say it's another organ because it plays such an important role in our lives. Some people say it might even be our biggest organ because it's up to 5 pounds, up to 5 pounds of weight. And these amazing amounts of species. There are 10,000, maybe up to 35,000 different species of these different colonies, different family tribes that are residing in our gut, and they all have different functions. So first of all, I mean, one thing they do is they protect our gut, they protect our body from any type of pathogens coming into our body, bad bacteria, bad food, food poisoning, E. coli, salmonella. I mean, they're as our first line, like homeland security. Our first defense to protect us from viruses and fungus and bad bacteria. And you think of some of the other applications that we're seeing in the constipation, diarrhea. We have diarrhea that, from in the hospitals from what's called C. diff, Clostridium. We have it from chemotherapy and radiation. So some of those applications for these beneficial bacteria, they're finding them extremely useful. Another application is they help to break down the foods. I mean, they're like munching all the little foods and breaking it down and helping us to assimilate all of the nutrients. And another aspect of digestion is they're actually making vitamins for us. So B vitamins, vitamin K, things like that.
And also, don't we have serotonin produced in the belly? I always thought it was in the brain. And also, when you're looking at when commercials come on and they talk about serotonin, you often see images with it, and so you think it's in the brain. But it's produced in the belly, isn't it?
It's pretty remarkable that this multi-billion-dollar industry of antidepressants, Prozac, and things like that, my goodness, we always think of serotonin, this neurotransmitter that makes us calm, makes us feel good. Where's it coming from? Well, it must be coming from the brain, but the Microbiome Project and all the science is showing that 90% of the neurons are manufactured in our gut.
It's amazing. And so I often think with great sympathy, actually, about people who are suffering. We were talking about emotional unwellness and how often people will say that they just can't figure out why they're feeling the way they are, and then some people might counter that, well, we'll just get off the couch, just go do something. Well, here we're discovering that it's not just what your willpower, your brain can do for you. It's actually if your ecosystem in your belly is not in balance, that could be causing you much more depression or the symptoms of it than you can possibly realize.
Yeah, I mean, a moody gut could be a moody mind.
Oh, that's good. That should be a T-shirt, a bumper sticker, and it should be on every cereal box.
Sure, sometimes we think maybe we're anxious, we're irritable, we're not feeling well, we're depressed or anything like that. Could it be the microbes in us? We have either an imbalance, we don't have enough beneficial positive bacteria in our gut, and it could be as simple as that. And so one of the other neurotransmitters is called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. And it's one of my favorites because it's called an inhibitory neurotransmitter. And what it does is it protects us from all these stress messages coming into our brain chemistry. We have a whole pharmaceutical industry developing Xanax and Valium and all these other things. But could it just be we're missing microbes, beneficial bacteria and microbes that can actually have an effect on our moods?
So it's not just the overpopulation or the huge population. It's also the state in which they're living, how they interact with one another. So it's really, you do have a tribal belly. They talk about the tribal belly and belly dancing, but it's much more because you've got many tribes in that belly, and they need to be in good balance and working together.
Yes, they need to be taken care of and be respected and be understood. I mean, we see this in so many disease states too, like, for example, autism, which has a huge effect, the neurological deficits with the gut. We're seeing it time and time again. And a shout out to PBS, who they've been showing a lot of neurologist Daniel Perlmutter's book, Brainmaker. And with a lot of his patients and young autism, he's been using lots of probiotics and finding that they have some really good results.
That's an easy fix. That's a really nice, natural, easy fix if you can go about it the right way. So your immune system's affected, your weight loss can be
that's
improved.
one thing is, what is our immune system? I mean, it's one thing that protects us, and one thing about aging, I mean, our immune system is going where? What direction is it going in?
We won't talk about that. Let's be optimistic.
It's diminishing, so the beneficial bacteria, I mean, most of our immune system is being formed in the gut. I mean, that's the new discoveries.
That's another, it's so profound. It really is profound.
It is profound, and they found that these beneficial bacteria are like professors. They're like teachers in a way, that they're there to teach our immune cells in terms of how to behave, how to act, how to engulf bad bacteria and pathogens. So all of these tribal colonies in our gut are playing an amazing role in our immunity, and not just keeping our immune system strong, but also to control it so it doesn't go into an inflammatory, not immune state. So, instruct in that respect. Some of the major discoveries that I find intriguing are weight loss. I mean, how many people do we know, or even ourselves at different times of our lives, we're trying to lose that extra pound or weight, so we're going on fast, changing our diets, going to the gym. Could it be they're finding that you have fat bacteria and you have thin bacteria, and thin people have thin bacteria, they're finding if you take the bacteria out of fat people, wow, it's a different, actually, colonies and different tribes.
So, just stopping for a moment, because we're actually running out of time. We have so much to share with you. We need a family tree discussion here, because there's so many bacterial strains.
This can get very complicated, but
so
in
can
essence,
you break it down just really simply? He did a great thing about. He brought up Michael Jordan. We were talking about
and cats, remember that.
And cats.
Well, let's I'd like everybody to go out and buy some Stonyfield or some good high-quality bacteria, a yogurt, and in the back take a look at the different names in the bacteria and see what they have to say. So let's take a look at, a lot of people know Acidophilus. So Lactobacillus acidophilus. Lactobacillus is the family name. So all of these bacteria have a family name. It's like a family tree, and that's based on the shape of the organism. So let's take a cat, for instance. Anything in the cat family. All cats kind of look alike. A puma, a cougar, a tiger, a lion, a cat. They all have that same shape. So that's the lactobacillus. Then after that, we try to go into the different kind of species. What kind of cat is it? Is it a puma or a cat? So that's the Acidophilus. But what's not shown on a lot of these things is the strain, and the strain is what makes a difference. Most probiotics you're going to buy don't even list the strain. And even on this, you don't see the strain. But the strain is crucial, because this is the difference between being an average basketball player and Michael Jordan. So we're going to show you before the show ends that how you can get the right kind of strains, make your own products, and actually develop powerful, powerful medicine, using specific strains that scientists have discovered. So that, in essence, is the family tree of microorganisms.
Well, so we covered that. So now the big question is, what can promote our gut health? What kinds of things? Well, we know yogurt, so we're talking about yogurt.
Well, yeah, all kinds of fermented foods and yogurts, and we have, sauerkrauts and all those kinds of foods in that respect. And, those are some probiotic-rich foods that we're showing. Kimchi is, the cultural dish of Korea. It's fermented sauerkraut. One thing about kimchi, they even find recently that, what's afflicting hospitals, antibiotic-resistant bacteria called MRSA, kimchi kills it.
Oh, that's
Those
awesome.
beneficial bacteria kill the MRSA. So.
I really wish that I had known about that when one of the family members got it from being in the hospital.
I agree. It got my mom too, so it's pretty rough.
And so you can take your probiotic foods. You can have those. You can also have. You need prebiotics,
yes,
which we commonly know as grains.
Right, unless it's actually fertilizing the foods that fertilize and help these bacteria to grow. Feeding them, and foods with fiber, fruits, vegetables, grains, things of that nature.
So that helps the good bacteria. But then now we have, and we can we forgot about the capsules. You can take your probiotic capsules now, and you want to make sure that you have a capsule that's a quality capsule, so that it can make it through the stomach, and the stomach acid doesn't dissolve it, and then it gets down into your small intestine, into the large, and it will help promote and strengthen those.
There's just a couple things also about, a gut-positive bacteria is being exposed to dirt.
Oh, right.
Soil.
Good old days when you get out. There was a reason for that just beyond playtime, wasn't there?
Yes. I mean, we reached a point where people want to be too hygiene and, being exposed to nature, the elements, soil, the environment, pets, animals, things like that. Your immune system could become stronger in that respect. There's one other thing that a recent study came out that exercise actually affects our inner gut and the ecology of it.
I would totally get that. That makes so much sense.
It helps to favor, a favorable amount of colonies, positive bacteria in our gut. So I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but exercise actually affects the gut.
Even a little bit, at least it will move things around.
Okay, let's go to the bad stuff. What can compromise our gut? Because I think in America we have a lot of compromised guts, and people don't even realize that that can be affecting their health in many ways. And they can do something about it, which we're going to show them.
Which simply, you can do it simply at home. A lot of these things that we have in our cabinets and we don't use all collectively, and we think are going to take a long time, actually we can do them quickly, and we can just increase our gut health simply and not having to have a big day of it. And so we'll talk about that in a minute.
So first of all, what's bad? What is the typical American diet? What do we call it?
Processed foods,
yes.
Sugars. Yeah. How about caffeine?
I don't think it has. I think caffeine is very beneficial, actually. I don't know what effect it would have on the gut, but it's a very beneficial food.
I love to bring
coffee.
that up.
I should
Yes.
coffee rather than just caffeine per se.
Because many people have a lot of sugar and cream in their coffee and artificial
Artificial
sweeteners. So that's the bad stuff with your coffee.
Bad for the gut. Absolutely. Your good bacteria don't like
But
those
the
artificial
coffee is good.
flavors. It's good. High fructose corn syrup, deadly. All these sugars, sodas, refined carbohydrates. Let's talk about antibiotics. Now we know the miracle of antibiotics and how they can save lives, and they've millions of lives, and thank goodness to Alexander Fleming, for discovery. But there's a tendency to people want to medicate themselves on antibiotics, and it's gotten out of hand in America, where now we have all kinds of resistant strains of bacterial strains that are very deadly. And antibiotics, they wipe out not just the bad pathogens, but all the good pathogens. And it's not unusual after a course of antibiotics that yeast infections develop. You have to go on these medications like nystatin, diflucan. They keep coming back because we haven't replaced, the good bacteria that was killed off. And I'd just like to say this, when my mom was, hospitalized, I made sure that on antibiotics in the intensive care unit, that 2 to 4 hours apart, that we would implement as a standard of care beneficial bacteria. So we had a balancing. I wish more hospitals would do that, or more people would be aware, so there's a balancing of the gut, because it's so crucial to health. At the beginning of birth is the first time when the beneficial bacteria are supposed to transfer if it's a natural birth.
And who would have known? I just never, I'm a mother, and it wasn't talked about, and people really didn't bring it up. I also did give birth in Iceland, so if they talked about it, that might have been a word. I didn't know, but how interesting that. But I wanted to actually bring this up because when I was in Iceland and my girlfriends were having children here, many people said, oh, I'm going to have my baby on this day. How are you doing that? It's a C-section, obviously, but I wondered because there were so many C-sections here as opposed to where I was living at the time where we were having natural births. And now we're seeing what's happening by not passing through the birth canal and getting that bacteria that actually feeds the gut in the infant. And then later breastfeeding, we have the bacteria in the mouth, so they're getting that also to feed the infant and strengthen the immune system.
Yeah, it's such a good point, with the C-sections. I know they're necessary in certain cases. My daughter was born by a C-section. It was necessary. So, these things at a point are necessary, but it's gone from natural birth to, they forecast up to almost half. In the next 10 years, almost half of all births are C-sections.
Oh.
So the infant is missing crucial beneficial bacteria through the birth canal. And the type of bacteria it's picking up is basically surgeons' hands, the instruments that are being used. And so they're missing what's called Bifidobacteria infantis, which is a particular strain that nature intended that child to have. So
if you can have a natural birth and there's not a need for it, it's probably a good idea to consider the bacterial effects, the positive bacterial effects to strengthen your child's immune system. Coming into a world filled with a lot of processed foods, our environment is polluted. It's a tough, tough world to keep strong in. So why don't we move over to fermented foods?
I'll just be very, very, just the last aspects. Steroids can deteriorate our beneficial bacteria. Birth control pills, not many people know that. Antacids, when we take all the acids, out of our stomach, parasites, bad bacteria can start to colonize. Chemotherapy, beneficial bacteria supplements are great to neutralize the diarrhea from chemo. Gluten, and the other aspect that we're looking at carefully, and I'm not sure of, is glyphosate, which is Roundup, what comes in GMO foods and things like that, may actually diminish or deteriorate or actually have a harmful effect on our gut. We're not sure yet, but it could be. So, what can we do about it? How can we actually take action and make our own foods and build up our own gut and strengthen ourselves?
So our ancestors did a lot of hunting and gathering. And then as we produced more knowledge or came to accept different ways of living than just picking off the earth, they began to process their foods naturally by fermenting their foods.
Yes.
So we talk about fermentation, and fermentation is a really strong, positive thing you can do eating your fermented foods.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of our whole human race history.
So here we have some benefits of fermented foods. They are definitely more flavorful. They have a lot more nutrients. They are more digestible. We're talking about better gut health. That's how we're going to get that gut health improving. What more can you say about fermented foods before we move on through to showing an easy way to
Well, I mean, once
demonstrate?
again, you know, this is for some people know how to ferment foods, but in essence, it's a lost art. All our ancestors knew how to ferment food in the past, and preserve food as a preservation. They didn't need refrigeration or anything like that. I mean, they didn't have it. But also to keep themselves well through the beneficial bacteria, even though they may not have been aware of that. So what you're going to do is you're going to show us now. You're going to give us a little
Just do a quick
example.
little demonstration on pickling, because I often think, oh, I don't want to pickle. It's going to take ages. And my husband did it a different way. There are many different ways that you can pickle. And we have these delicious, wonderful pickles. But if you saw our garlic show, we've actually put garlic in there, and that's our great immune booster too. So pickled garlic is wonderful, even just popping one in when you're feeling a little down. So this is our finished product.
Wow.
I just wanted to take you through it really quickly. So everyone has seen these. You get them, and you don't have to go through boiling them. Stick them in your dishwasher, right? But don't put your lids on, because it's going to change things. And the lids come in these little boxes.
Mason jar.
Mason jar.
Yeah.
You get the top part to the lid separately, because this will change with the heat. And the round part of your jar has the ring. So these are good for sealing. So everyone knows about that. Don't worry about boiling. You do want to put your the metal in boiling water to sterilize it just before the process. So what you want to have here, I don't know if you can see it, is I would have water here, but we're not going to go risky on that one. But these are hypothetically soaking in water. And when you're done soaking your cucumber, you just want to take a vegetable brush and you want to just brush it off, so you're getting any mold encouraging things off here once it
Do you just
starts
rinse it,
fermenting.
wash it, or
Just take it out of the water, run it under the water in your faucet, and just rinse it off. You don't have to get crazy. You're just trying to get the
Okay.
mold-producing ones on. I chose to show you pickle chips. The spears are fun, and we're most commonly seeing. I grew up on the pickle spears, but I find that these are easier. You can pop them just as easy as you could a cookie. They're in the shape of a cookie, so if you want to do something positive, cut them like this, and then you're going to place your sliced cucumber, and now the jar will not be sealed. Then you want to take, there's many things you can use, peppercorns, bay leaves, sea salt. You want to put your sea salt in there. Cloves and cinnamon really add a nice kick to it. But then you can, and mustard seed also is something that many people like to use. And you can go to your favorite location, which I did today, and I had a blast, and I have to thank them. It was really a sweet tour through the shop. I got pickling spice. So this is an easier thing than trying to figure out the combination, and sometimes it will affect your pickling. So you don't have to boil your water. You want to just
I have a question on this. You're using these different. Is this just to give it a spicy taste?
For flavor.
For flavor.
Yes.
This is just for flavor.
Because you
Okay.
want to get, I forgot the most
So we do
important.
that for flavor, and you just put some in?
Yeah,
into the
so
jar.
what you're going to do, some when they're boiling are going to use a vinegar mixture with these spices. But I wanted to make it easy for you, and I wanted just to say, this is 3 steps. Soak and scrub, slice and place in the jar, and then you want to just take 3 tablespoons of your pickling spice and pour it into your jar, and then you want to take salt. Now, I don't have much time, but I would have taken it in little bits and pieces and put the salt in evenly distributed. So you're going to put that in there, and then you're going to just take, I figured out the way to remember it is, instead of working 9 to 5, you're going to do 8 cups of water to 5 tablespoons of salt, and you're going to mix it mix your water mixture in there so you have the proper mixture for fermenting, and pour it all the way right over the top of your cucumbers, because the oxygen, and you want to push it down, you can use a pestle, push it right down to get the oxygen out, and then you just want to take your newly sanitized jar top and then place the lid on the top and seal it up, and you don't have to do anything. Now 3 days go by, just let it sit on your kitchen counter. You don't want to put it in any refrigeration or cold. Take this 3 days into it and taste it. See if it's spicy enough for you, if it's acidic enough. It's going to be a matter of, that's kind of like a natural attunement also with what your own digestion might need. Go a little bit longer. When you find that the taste of your pickle is the way you like it, stick it in the fridge, lasts for 3 months, and you don't have to boil and go crazy. So there you go.
Do you always use vinegar or?
No, just water and salt for this, for this technique.
For this technique, water, salt.
You can boil and you can do
So
different
that
things.
breaks that breaks it down. The salt is a preservative, and then it breaks down
And
into
it will
fermentation.
pull the water, yes, it ferments that way, pulls the
And
water
how long
out.
does that last? Like months?
3 months,
3 months?
at least
Wow.
in your fridge.
It's that easy.
It is that easy. And if you want to do a really quick show on the yogurt maker, because we're running out of time, and we wanted to show you folks at home how easy it is for
I'll give
yogurt
you 2
too.
minutes to make some of the most powerful yogurt to save you a lot of money. Go out and buy Stonyfield organic milk, and make sure it's, well, I like it full fat because the fatty acids help to absorb the vitamin D, the vitamin A, vitamin K, and vitamin D. Half gallon, put it in, boil it to 180, 190 degrees, get it up, not boil it, but heat it up for about 10, 15 minutes at that degree, 180. Measure it, cool it down to 110 degrees. By heating it up, it allows the proteins to burn off. It makes it more digestible.
Right,
Some of the
right.
pathogens and the water. So once you have that here, you take a little bit out and you mix it with, I have a yogurt starter. This is from natren.com, Natren.com. It's the most powerful yogurt starter in the world. These super strains. And you just take a little cup of that, half gallon, mix it with the starter culture, or your previous yogurt, you could use some of that as a starter culture and mix them both in. And then after you mix it with some milk, some of this, put it back in. You can put it, when I was a student, I used to just put it in the closet and just sort of towel over it and let it, ferment overnight and, things like that. But if you want to do it a little more professionally and make sure you get your yogurt out perfectly each time, this is called a Euro Cuisine, which is at Cultures for Health, which is a wonderful company, and culturesforhealth.com, and 6 to 8 hours you'll have perfect yogurt, and some of the most powerful yogurt, maybe 1,000 times or 100 times or 10 times more powerful than anything you're going to buy in the supermarket by using these super strains, the Michael Jordan strains, you might want to say, or LeBron James at natren.com. So that's a very simple process.
And let's just also share with you, many people know about Kieffer already, but this you can buy right at the supermarket, and you can also take some of this and put it into your own milk, you said the other day?
Yes, or else you could just,
Kieffer?
this Cultures for Health, you can also just, they have all the different Kieffer grains.
So you
things
can
like
order
that.
them and put them
Yeah.
right in at home, so you want to do that. We'll also have this information available for you on our Facebook page. You can email us at healthbuzzshow@gmail.com. So like us on Facebook, come and visit us, tell us, let's bring some recipes together and see if we can get you just in and out of your kitchen, lickety-split, with some good wholesome food. And that's really all we have time for.
Yeah, absolutely. And, once again, our salute to Menshikov and all the pioneers who have come before us, and to the scientists who are making these amazing discoveries today in terms of this inner ecology and the effect it has on our health and the effect it can have on our lifespan and what we can do about it.
Right, so you take care of your inner space, get everything in balance, and feel well. So thank you for joining us tonight on Health Buzz.
Thank you. Okay.